Hey guys, Kamina the coach here. Who knows if I'll get it out properly or not. I'm having trouble getting videos uploaded that are longer, so we'll see. So for those of you who haven't been following the channel, my name is Kamina the coach. This channel was originally solely directed towards helping people get together to work and live abroad. I've been living abroad for over a decade in 9 different countries, working in education, primarily higher education. With COVID in March of 2020, I returned to the United States, so I redirected the channel to start following my journey as I worked through early childhood trauma directly related to adoption and all the things that went with that. I am now, as of September of 2022, back to working abroad in education, so now we've got a mixed bag. This is just going to kind of be a video on, some adoption related observations and kind of a chronological outline of how my spirituality has developed. At the end, I'm going to kind of wrap up with, I think that my bio mom has been following my channel, so I've recently got a message from her, so I'll kind of wrap up with a message to her if she's watching this. So again, Kamina the coach, and I was adopted at birth by a pretty racist white Texans family. I am a domestic adoptee. I am Black American. My father was Black American. My mother is Italian American. So half white, half black, adopted by a racist white family. So you can imagine a relatively mixed bag of stuff going on with trauma there. What's interesting is a lot of adoptees were adopted into really religious families. So the converse is true for me. I was adopted into a family where who knows what the adopted father. I find that this is often the case, that there's a very domineering mother and a very weak or submissive father figure in a lot of the adoptee families, where especially where there was a lot of adoption trauma. It was a very domineering, and probably her idea, a very domineering adoptive mother and a very passive adoptive father, and that was the case in my situation. So who knows what he really believed in. He kind of believed whatever she told him to believe, as far as I could tell. I know from being around his family that they weren't really religious until his youngest sister married a pastor. So we had never ever said grace at any family meals until his youngest sister married pastor, minister, I'm not sure what he was. But definitely in our house, my adoptive mother was really vocal about her opposition to religion. Specifically Christianity. She never really spoke about any other religions. Interestingly enough, when she got in trouble, and so she had a car accident that killed somebody because she became an alcoholic, because she fell in love with my first love, and she had a car accident that killed somebody because she had got really drunk, distressed about this guy. And during that time, she started practicing the Wicca religion, so kind of the worship of the elements and such. It was very interesting. And from my understanding, she also, when she was younger, had a spurt with religion, as far as I could tell. Now, her mother was not religious. Her grandmother was to some degree religious, and I believe related to Billy Graham, but that didn't translate over into her life. I'm sure that she's carrying a lot of trauma with her from her youth. She didn't speak tremendously about it, but I mean, it's very obvious in the way that she presented herself in her life, so she must be carrying quite a bit of trauma. We know that there's quite a bit of mental health issues going on there because of how that spilled over onto me. But she was really vocal in saying that that she believed that Jesus was a myth, like Paul Bunyan, and that the Bible was basically a fairy tale, And when I was younger and I would go spend the night at a friend's house and we would be going to church, she always, so if I spent the night on a Saturday, on Sunday we would go to church, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that was because, and I think that a large reason why I don't do well in groups and with people is because how isolated I was in my home. And I'm just now kind of starting to realize that I was very, very, very isolated. I only have a brother who's 10 years older than me. I have two cousins, but they were never really anywhere near us, and they're two boys and they're much older than me. So I really didn't grow up with anybody really around me. There were two kids who had a grandmother that lived across the street from me, but really only got to play with them in the summer. And I think that a lot of the way that I isolate myself comes from that. But yeah, so when I would go spend the night with a friend, she would always make a big to-do and make sure that I understood that I shouldn't be buying into that. And I'm like, when I got to a certain age, I was kind of like, you do you. I mean, who knows if I'm really believing it or not, but I really enjoyed being around just the people, having the opportunity to be around other kids, other adults. And I think now looking back on it, a large part of why she kept me so isolated is because my whole existence was a secret. She was raising me to believe that I was not only her child, but a white child. So she couldn't afford to have me around other people, kids or adults, because somebody would blow her cover. And as an adult, I recognize that, but tremendous amount of damage that I'm just in the midst of this video realizing. But so I'm talking about spiritual development, and so growing up not believing in anything, and actually getting punished at a public school by a principal who didn't want to give me a candy cane at Christmas because I voiced the fact that I didn't believe in Jesus. And she was like, well, do you think you deserve a candy cane? Now we're talking about a secular public school. How traumatic is that? I'm just remembering that as well. So I guess the first time that I looked at accepting Christ into my life was, I don't even remember how old I was, but there was a white girl that I went to school with, elementary school with, whose mother's really, really religious. And at some point before I left Texas, I was hanging around with her and accepted Christ at her church. How old was I? I had to be late teens because I turned 21 once I had left Texas. So that was the first time. And then, so I don't know if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, they used to advertise something on TV called the Little Blue Book. And I didn't really know what it was, even though I'd been going to church since I was little, not regularly, but going with friends. I didn't really know anything about Christianity because it wasn't really my family's thing. So when I finally did leave home, I got married really, really young. And when I left him, I went to go live with a family in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I don't know how I found this little blue book. It was just small. It was like magazine size. And kind of got introduced to Christ again that way. Wow, it's hard to put all that stuff together. It feels like such a lifetime ago, and it was. So starting kind of trying to study, buying a Bible, trying to find a community, which was really difficult because I've never had community. And very disjointed, kind of moving all over the place. And that's kind of been the way that it's been for me my whole life, kind of disjointed, moving all over the place. I had an actual baptism in water. I was 21, living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and and a girl that I used to dance with, I don't know how we found this church, but she and I went to church, and I was actually baptized in water there. And a guy that I was living with, I mean, we were trying. he and I went to church in another city together. We tried to do religion together. Again, pretty disjointed. I didn't really have religion growing up, so I was just dabbling. I just knew that that I had had experiences for which I didn't really have words. And I definitely felt like I needed to believe that there was something more. So I didn't really get serious into religion until I was in the military. I joined the military in 2001, October of 2001, shortly after 9/11 actually. And while I was in the military, I actually went to seminary to several years after I'd been in. I looked at going to seminary to become a chaplain. And so even before I had done that, I had quit drinking, I had quit smoking, I had quit having sex, and it was a gradual process. I didn't do it all at once, and I was glowing. People had come to Christ because of the way that I was changing my life, and that was actually all kind of started by going to a Dale Carnegie seminar, and I went to a singles conference that was led by the chaplains that I was in the military with. And so self-discovery type books, The Secret, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, this kind of stuff kind of pointing me towards, as I seek enlightenment, kind of pointing me towards the direction of religion. However, the deeper that I went into Christianity, the more I recognized that it was a means of separating. And while the message itself is beautiful, the core message of loving your neighbor like you love yourself, and altruism and as a whole, it just was very exclusionary. Its history wasn't so great. And so when I went to Saudi Arabia in 2000, and I didn't finish seminary because it lost its glitter. It wasn't really about service. It was really more just about history and linguistics, and I didn't enjoy it. History, geography, and linguistics, I didn't enjoy it. One semester, and that was all I could do. And so then I went to Saudi Arabia 2013 and found myself fascinated by the ritual involved in Islam. And so the problem with that is that I learned, it was the same way that I learned Christianity, kind of in a bubble. And so I learned Islam in a Sunni bubble. And so then once I was outside of Saudi Arabia, so I said Shahada, I became a Muslim in Saudi Arabia after many, many months of studying. So please don't take it like I took it lightly, because I didn't. And really beautiful at its core, but what I wasn't understanding was all of the violence and all of the history and all of the division that was inside of Islam as well. But I had learned it inside of this little Sunni bubble. So this is my second existential crisis. So when I went to Iraq, I was told that I looked too Arab and I needed to stop covering, and honestly, Ramadan was a really hard time for me, because Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving were always hard because those were family times. Well, Ramadan is 30 days of fasting, and ultimately it's a time to be with your family and friends, and I was just reminded outside of Saudi Arabia that I didn't really have that. And so another existential crisis, for real existential crisis this time. And so that is what has kind of led me to where I am now, and I don't really have a word for what I am or what I am not. I don't like to use the word spiritual because I feel like it actually has become a religion now. I don't really have a religion. I just believe in the divine. I lean a lot towards science, I think, and that is a direct result of being so conditioned not to believe. But I know, and I have seen a lot of times in my life, existence of true divinity. I just don't see divinity as a white man sitting in the clouds ruling over all. I see it more as that we are all connected by this amazing, benevolent power that runs through all of us, and that we have access to everything that ever has been and ever will be inside of us now. And we are commanded to love each other because as ourselves, because we actually are, that you are me and I am you, and we are each other. And that is hugely why we should treat each other well, because there is no division. Like the idea of separateness is an illusion. So that's where I'm at right now, and I will probably continue to grow and evolve. But I recognize a very sharp resistance inside of myself when I do talk about divinity, and that is a result of how I was reared. So I was going to kind of give a message to my bio mother in this, but I'm running up on 16 minutes right now, so I'm going to go ahead and, as always, wish you love, light, peace, and joy. Take some time to look at how you were raised and how it is affecting the way that you see and live and move in the world. And ask yourself, is it serving you? I know that that particular perspective isn't serving me, because I know that I am divine, and I am part of a divine creation, divine benevolent creation. And the fact that that makes me uncomfortable to say that doesn't serve me, and that is residual from that adoption trauma. So sending you love, light, peace, and joy. My name is Kamina the Coach. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.